Hello? Can anybody hear me? Well, I seem to be live, so that's good. Clara, if you're able to hear me, can you just pop something in the chat so that I know that I'm talking to somebody and I'm not just here on my own? That'd be cool. Well, look, it says I'm live, so I might as well start speaking. Yeah. So it says 2 people. Hello, good morning. Morning. Anybody there? If you're there, 4 people. Hello. If you're here, give me a shout in the chat just so I can double check that everything's working and it's all good. If not, I'll just start chatting away. Yay! I can see you. Awesome. Thanks, Laura. Okay, cool. Hello, good morning. Hope you're all well. And it's all right. Hi, Anna. Hope it's all right where you are. We're still in a bit of a strange world, aren't we? Getting stranger by the day, but not to worry, we're not going to talk about that. We're here to talk about motivating dogs from Brisbane. Hey, how's it going? How's it going, Lisa? Okay, cool. So I would love to know what you all thought about the motivation lesson that I sent out. Was it anything new to you? Anything that helped you? Did it help at all? Oh, hang on. Do you want to go up there? Hang on. There we go. Up we go. There we go. Did it help at all? Oh, hang on. Sorry. So I just got to stop her jumping off the chair because she's got a bad back. Yeah, so sorry about that. Morning, Faye. Okay, so right, what am I getting distracted by, Boo? So was it any good? Was it useful? Was it all stuff you knew already? The reason why I wanted to put the motivation lesson very early in the course was because in my experience, hang on, let me just turn this light on so you can see me recording. There we go. In my experience, motivating dogs is a huge challenge for most people. So I thought that it'd be really good to get that done sooner rather than later. So I'd really be interested to know what you thought about it and if it was helpful, or if you knew it all already. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go like I normally do. I'm going to have like a brief chat about the lesson, what I've said, and then I'm going to go through questions that people have put to me. I've had some really good questions this week and I've had quite a lot, so I'm not going to blather on for too long. I'm going to kind of just get into it. So right, so the first thing I've got written here is expectations. So expectations, really important not to have too many of them. In my experience, I think the more expectations you have, the more ways that you feel that you can be sort of let down by what's happening. So I think it's really important not to expect too much. And you can always, don't want to use the word train, but sort of encourage your dog over time to be enjoying what you're doing. But expecting too much from them in the beginning is, it doesn't really help. And actually, I was thinking about my own dogs, motivating Boo and Betsy, because Boo's nearly 13 and Betsy's 5. Hello from Scotland. Hello, Laura. They both have different motivations, and of course, I can't expect from Boo what I used to be able to expect. So she's very different now. So expecting her to do the stuff that she did when she was younger is completely pointless. Most of the time, Boo actually just walks behind my feet. So I'm like, where's Boo? Where's Boo? Where's Boo? Oh, she's always behind my feet. And trying to get them to do anything other than sit and stare at me is quite a challenge. So I have challenges motivating my own dogs. Betsy's not so much. Betsy? Hello. Betsy, not so much, because she's younger and she's more motivated. She goes off exploring, so it's easier for me to get pictures of her doing something other than just sitting staring at me. But Boo, yeah. So my expectations have changed over the years, and there's just not a lot I can do about that, really. I just try and get the best out of what I have got, and I think that that's the most important thing, is making the most of what you have, if that makes sense. I put here sniffing. Really important to just let dogs be and not moither them. I love that word, moither. Boo moithers me. Sometimes owners will be too much on their dogs. Yeah, I find this quite a lot actually. When I'm doing shoots, I mean, it's not my place to tell anybody how to be with their dog at all, but it's quite clear in certain occasions that people are a bit too much on at their dog to do something, and then the dog just doesn't listen. And they wonder why they're not listening because they're just sort of going on and on and on. So sometimes I have to say, being a little bit sort of diplomatic because it's not my dog, but at the same time, I'm managing the situation. Why don't we just sort of let them be for a minute and kind of not ask them to do too much? So I sort of try and say it in that way. But really, what I'm trying to say is stop pestering the dog because they're not listening and it's not working. So generally on my shoots, it's a bit of I use the dripping tap analogy. So we do a little bit and then we move on, and we do a little bit and then we move on, and we do a little bit and then we move on. So it's really important that the dog enjoys the experience. And I don't know any dog, I've never met any dog that didn't like sniffing. And so sniffing is a really important part of a walk for a dog, isn't it? So we do a little bit. I mean, it depends on the location, actually. It's not so much on a beach, but if you're going to like a park or woods or something, they really enjoy do a little bit and then, oh, let's have a little walk around, let them have a sniff and a little wander. Oh, let's try again. So if you got out of the car and then you're constantly, right, portrait for 2 hours, it completely disaster. Would be boring for them, would be very boring. So I'm very conscious of adjusting what I'm doing to what they need and what they enjoy. Let's see what comments we've got. No questions late yet at the moment. Yeah, as normal, if you've got any questions as I'm speaking or any comments, please put them in the live chat. Right, what else have I got? So location. So I hope I got across to you how important location is. It's absolutely vital. Yeah, my planning your dog's photo shoot guide, I realised actually that location's pretty much all of it, apart from bringing something that they like treats, toys, ball, etc. Because it, as I said in the lesson, there's so many reasons why location is important, but when I get to the questions, there's actually quite a few bits about location which I'll mention. But yeah, it's absolutely vital. I mean, I've had all sorts of different dogs. So nervous dogs who are frightened of the dogs or frightened of traffic or lots of noise. So we have to go somewhere quiet. I've got dogs who, or I've had photographed dogs, and the person says, oh, they know they have to go to the beach. They have to go to the beach with their ball. That's it. And we go there and they're just so animated. They absolutely love it. And of course, it makes complete sense. I've had dogs that don't like other dogs, so you've got to be really, really careful in that kind of instance. And that, a lot of the time, when you get dogs like that, that's when we start to use those private fields that you can hire. So there's absolutely no chance of you coming across any other dogs. Dogs that love other dogs, yeah, of course. I mean, dogs that get distracted by other dogs. Obviously, if you're going to take them to a busy park, it's going to be tricky. I mean, I did a workshop last year. And we had to go to a busy park because it had an enclosed fence. But this dog was completely distracted by other dogs. And so it was very interesting how the workshop, it was a one-to-one workshop, it was very interesting how this panned out with my method of doing things, as opposed to the lady's previous method, which was constantly trying to get the dog back to take pictures. And my method was, well, as long as the other people don't mind and your dog's not racing off a mile away, if we let him just sort of go and do it for a bit and then call him back, then we got more out of him. So a lot of times it's just common sense, but I feel that people don't necessarily think about these things enough. I've got here dogs that like hunting, dogs that like going off, seeing what things that they can chase or eat. Now, obviously, I don't want any creature, dog or otherwise, to get hurt on my photo shoot. So it's pretty important if you've got a dog like that, that you don't go somewhere where they want to do that. In fact, I had a shoot recently with 3 dogs, none of whom did anything together, and we went to a private field, and one of them just spent the entire time running along the perimeter, trying to get out to find things to go and hunt. And actually, it was quite difficult to get her away from the perimeter. We did sometimes, but most of the time we just left her to it. It was a very safe environment. But if we'd gone somewhere without the fence, well, we probably wouldn't have seen her for dust. So it's really important to think about these kind of things. I've also put let things develop naturally. I would love that. Like, it would be my ideal to have all the interesting things that a dog does just happen in front of me naturally. It doesn't really work like that most of the time. I'm having to try and make things happen where I want the dog to do it, but it is not always easy. I mean, I love nothing more. My favorite, absolute favorite thing is to watch 2 dogs just playing with each other, racing off, having a play fight, whatever. But actually, it's quite rare that it happens on my shoots, which is a bit of a shame because I love the pictures that you can get like that. And I love watching dogs going off to explore and doing their own thing. But most of the time, if they're doing that, they're not doing it in the place where I want them to. So yeah, it can be quite tricky. But yeah, anything that I try and make the dog do is always within the boundaries of what they like. So I never, ever make them do anything that they don't want to do, because that's just, you're going to hide into nothing, aren't you? Okay, I've got over here. Yeah, so the needs of the individual, I mean, that's absolutely paramount. So every shoot I do, before I do a shoot, I have it's just a quick question, like I said in my lesson. What does your dog enjoy? What do they like doing? This is fundamental to their motivation. And they know, I mean, obviously they know their dog. I mean, you get the odd occasion where, say, like the location isn't quite right because they haven't thought it through. But most of the time, the majority of the time, they'll say, okay, this is what they need, this is what they like, this is what they don't like. And if you get a situation where they say they don't care where they go as long as the ball's there, or I'm there, or whatever, then I go, well, the next question is, well, what kind of pictures do you want? What sort of background do you want to the pictures? If your dog is happy absolutely everywhere, which a lot of dogs are, then the question becomes, well, what kind of background do you want? So obviously the kind of locations that I've been able to go to have been all sorts. So countryside locations, beach locations, woods with the bluebells, woods in the autumn. And then they have to have a think about what kind of pictures they want. More often than not, actually, they don't really care. They just say, listen, I don't care. As long as you can get anything of my dog, I'd be grateful. Yeah, what to say here? Difficulty is when there's more than one dog and they all have different motivations. Yes, I would say that is the hardest thing that I have that I encounter. But I'm going to do lessons later on multiple dogs. But just to give you a very quick story, I mean, photographing one dog is hard enough, isn't it? As you all know. But I had a shoot once with 5 dogs on the beach, and they're all different. So they're all different in the sense like they all looked different. They're all different sizes and different colours, but they all had different motivations. None of them wanted to do anything with each other at all. One of them just wanted to stay by her mum's feet. One of them was off the whole time. One of them just wanted the ball. One of them was sort of sniffing about. And so getting them together, it just, no, wasn't going to happen. And I could actually tell that the lady was getting a little bit upset because that's what she wanted more than anything, was to have a picture of her dogs together. And in the end, actually, I realised there was no chance, absolutely zero chance, these dogs were going to sit together or run together or do anything actually together. So in the end, the lady and her partner had to be in the pictures because it was the only way we could do it. And we did it 2 different ways. We did one kind of normal portrait of them all sort of in a line, and then we did another one of them all walking across the beach in a line. And yeah, it was quite nice actually, but it was the only way we can do it. Sometimes you just can't. You just sometimes just can't do it. And there's no point stressing about it or making the dogs, you know, you must sit together. If they're not going to do it, they're not going to do it. But yeah, I was pretty chilled about it. I was like, look, there's stuff that we can do, but you might actually have to be in the picture. And she was fine with that, so that was lucky. So I've got here reward. I mean, reward is a massive one, isn't it? And I don't mean just sort of plying your dog with treats the whole time, because obviously you don't want to get them fat, do you? But you could give them their dinner out. I mean, I've known people do that before. One thing I've noticed with regards to food, which doesn't necessarily work, is if, for example, oh, I don't know, somebody feeds their dog kibble twice a day, and then the treats that they bring to the shoot are kibble, the same kibble. More often than not, the dog's like, well, I don't care. This is what I get twice a day. I'm not bothered. And they're like, oh, well, they're not motivated by this food. And I'm like, well, okay, well, I've got these special treats in my pocket. Should we see if they like them? And the dog's like, wow, what is this special stuff? I love it. Now, obviously, you have to be careful because some dogs have allergies and whatnot. So I always ask. I never feed a dog off my own back. I always ask, are they okay with this? And so I found that actually having high reward treats, very, very helpful. But of course, like you guys know, not all dogs are motivated by food. And as we know, there are lots and lots of different types of motivation. So it's really important to match what the dog wants with what you're rewarding them with. So, for example, yesterday I took Boo and Betsy down the beach, and actually I didn't have any treats with me at the time, but I spotted a situation. Betsy looked quite nice against the water, and I was like, Betsy, stay, and she stayed. It was like a couple of seconds, and then I was like, oh, well done, well done, well done. And she loves being a good girl. She did a little bit of zoomy. She came up, she was jumping, she was kissing me. And I think she did kind of expect a treat, but she didn't get one, but she got loads and loads of fuss. So it doesn't always have to be one thing or the other. She absolutely loves being a good girl and getting loads of praise. She absolutely loves it. So it didn't have to be one thing or the other, whatever your dog liked. But what I am conscious of, very, very conscious of, is giving them the reward every time, a reward, whatever that is, and quickly as well. So there is never, and I can say this with complete confidence, there is never a situation where I'm asking a dog to stay still for more than a few seconds. I mean, a few seconds actually quite a long time. I just do it in other ways. So, but yeah, like you say, some dogs are very still. They like just sitting there, in which case, fine. But most dogs I've come across are not like that. Yeah, so that leads me on to taking too long. Taking too long. Now we're going to do a lesson on planning and speed later on in the course, but just to very quickly say about this, that it's one thing I've noticed, especially on my workshops, is people take far too long taking a portrait. Now, action shots different. We're going to cover that later on. Forget action shots for now. I know most of you just want to get onto action shots, but we're not. We're going to concentrate on portraits of dogs still. Most people are taking far, far, far too long, and then they wonder why their dog is bored. I'll just give you a couple of examples. Actually, the first example is of a lady who wasn't actually on my workshop. She was just a lady walking past with her friend and her dog. So I was doing a one-to-one workshop in a woods in Brighton, and I was talking to my student about speed and kind of planning and thinking, and okay, well, we'll get the dog here and blah blah blah. And we'd actually taken a few really successful portraits very quickly. Dog got the reward, and they were off sniffing, and we were just sort of stood there chatting, and then this lady and a friend walked past, and she said, oh, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, we're doing a workshop photographing dogs. So she said, oh yeah, I'll have a go. So she put her dog exactly the same place where we had put our dogs, and we just both stood and watched what she was doing. And she must have taken about a minute and a half, I kid you not, about a minute and a half, and about 30 pictures of this dog, constantly trying to get him to look at her. And me and this lady sort of looked at each other with a right kind of knowing smile, going, too long, far too long. Dog's bored, absolutely bored stiff. And you could tell she was getting a little bit frustrated with her dog. And I thought, it's not my place to tell her, your dog's bored. Your dog's bored. Just sort of, why don't you take a couple, let him go, and then get him back? Try it that way. But I thought, well, she's not paying me for advice, so she can come and workshop. But yeah, she was taking far too long. But another example on one of my workshops was, I don't want to name names because I I feel like this lady was taking like really far too long. She was actually on one of my workshops, and this was one of my students. And this is towards the end of the workshop, and I've been going on about speed and not taking too long. And she wanted a portrait of her 3 dogs, and I swear to God, it was 1 minute went past, 2 minutes went past. I think it was near enough 5 minutes, and she'd taken probably over 100 pictures of exactly the same thing. And in the end, I started feeling a little bit sorry for these dogs because they were ever so good. Bless them. They were sat there, but they were kind of obviously getting bored, kind of looking round. And every time they were looking round, she was like, "No, no, no, you must look, you must look." And I kind of started to say, let's kind of, how about we let them go for a little bit, and then we try again, try again. And I kind of slowly started saying, have you got anything vastly different to what you got a minute ago? So yeah, I could tell that it wasn't working for the dogs. I could tell that they were bored. I could tell that they were frustrated. But I couldn't quite get it through to her that that's probably not what's going to help her long term to get group shots of her dogs. But yeah, it was really a long time, and I was bored. I was like, listen, I'm bored here. This is too long. Let's get cracking. So yeah, speed is really important. What does the man say? Treats weren't doing it after 3 weeks of on-lead walks. It was all about the sniff. So it was hard getting him to stand in a certain place. You have to be quick. Well, there you go. So Amanda's talking about her dog, which had 3 weeks of on-lead walks. Well, can you imagine being the dog? You've been on the lead for 3 weeks, and all of a sudden you've got your freedom back. Do you really think you're going to want to sit and sort of pose for pictures after 3 weeks on the lead? I'd say definitely in that situation, let your dog run, let your dog sniff, let them do what they want to do. And maybe at the end, when they've got all of that out of their system, maybe they'd be interested in maybe having a treat or kind of hanging out with you for a little bit. But I think it's definitely about timing and reflecting their needs and what they want. And if your dog is completely disinterested because they've been on the lead for so long and all they want to do is sniff, 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 well, you'll just have to wait. That's the thing. You just have to wait. Right. So yeah. So planning things first, I find, is a really good method to not take too much time. And I'm going to talk a lot more about this in a future lesson. But just to sort of plant the seed, how many of you actually really properly think about the picture that you want to take before getting your dog into that position? If you can get them into the position, sometimes you can't. Or how many of you just sort of hit and hope, and it's all a bit kind of scattergun? I do that too, by the way, hit and hope. But how many of you really, really think? Do you look through the lens or different lenses and think, I don't really like the look of that, or maybe this angle would be better, or maybe the light's not quite right? How many of you actually think about this? Because this is what I do on my shoots, especially with a location that I don't know. I'm constantly looking around thinking, okay, would that look nice? Would that look nice? And sometimes when I look through my lens, I think, no, it doesn't. I don't like it. But if I got the dog there whilst I'm doing my thinking, and then I sort of wasted that time that they've given me because actually I don't really like the look of the picture anyway. I don't take too long to do this because obviously when I'm on a shoot, I have to be conscious of, I can't be sort of standing around planning things for 10, 15 minutes. I'm talking more, 10, 20 seconds. And also as I'm walking along, I'm thinking, I'm looking, I'm always sort of aware of everything that's going on around me. But in the meantime, when I am thinking, looking, I do say to people, well, your dog can do whatever they want for the time being. Don't worry about me. I'm just changing lens or I'm just looking. And then they're either kind of off sniffing or they're with their ball or whatever it is that they're doing. The last thing that they are doing is sitting still, waiting for me to be ready because it's counterproductive. Um, Actually, I say that some dogs, as soon as you know that, as soon as they know that there's treats involved, they're like, "Yep, I'm just going to sit here and wait." But that's actually quite rare. What does Owen say? He had a good hour's walk and photos grabbed on the way. Hopefully, some good shots. But hey ho, we can always try again later. Exactly, exactly. That's the whole point. You can always try again later. Mind you, if you're me, most of the time, yeah, I'm a little bit more pressured than you guys. But you guys have umpteen opportunities to do this. But there's a little bit more pressure on me to be getting something there and then. Laura says, I'm usually too eager to get snapping, but really trying now to slow things down. I think that that's a really good thing, Laura, to be doing. Just observe, why not spend some time observing and actually just enjoying being out with your dog? Especially in the beginning, yeah, I was the same. I was obsessed with taking pictures of Boo. To the point where I think that I forgot actually how to enjoy just being there with her. I mean, she had a great time. She didn't care because she's so greedy and she was just scampering around. But I think I was so obsessed with, oh, the settings are wrong. I've got to do this all the light that I didn't sort of enjoy the walks so much. So I think it's a really good idea to kind of slow down, observe, and wait for the right moment for something interesting to happen. I mean, obviously at the beginning of walks, obviously there's more action with most dogs. So when we get further on, you could easily start snapping straight away because they're already running around. But at the moment, we're more concentrating on portraits. So what does Heather say? I don't strictly plan to do X, Y, Z beforehand, but try to plan and think as I see something before getting the dog in the shot. Yeah, exactly. Quite often it's hard to have a definitive plan because it's dogs at the end of the day. They may or may not do what you want them to do. But it's certainly a good idea to sort of be thinking about what you want before asking them to do whatever it is that you want. Whether or not they'll do it is another matter, of course. So who liked my using the motivation to try and position a dog? And if you didn't see it, did you see my video that I did of Betsy in the garden? Because I thought that was quite good. Being able to sort of let them sniff if it's a treat or a ball or whatever, sniff it, and then taking them to where you want, and then kind of bringing them back around. I found this tactic incredibly helpful on my photo shoots because most of the time the dogs won't take instruction off their person, let alone me, somebody that they don't know and that they've never met before. If I'm asking them to stay and wait and sit, they'll be like, "Well, who are you? I don't care. What are you trying to say to me?" So I found this method of wordless motivation, just taking them with what they want, to be quite a good one. But of course, if you've got a really long zoom lens, you're far too far away to do that. So it only really works with the closer lenses. And actually, it worked great with wide angle lenses. So we're going to be doing that later on. I know I showed you with my 35mm, which you sort of hold your arm out so that they don't come towards you. Because the thing is, a lot of dogs, especially if you're on the flat, they're all over you when you've got what they want. They're all clambering. So I kind of hold my arm out with the tree to be able to physically get further back. And yeah, a lot of times it works. Not all the time, obviously. Oh yeah, and so the not interested dogs, great pictures sometimes. Like I showed you with a picture of summer on the beach, looking up into the sunset. I love that kind of picture, but it's not often you can get something like that. And I wish often I had more time with dogs, but it's just the way it is for me. So I think be ready, observe, and watch. Quite often when I'm on my group workshops, most of the time it's women, and women love to chat. So we'd be doing something, and then they'd start chatting, and all of a sudden the dogs would be doing something interesting, and I'd drop to the floor taking pictures, and they're still busy nattering away. Not all the time, but quite often I'm like, be ready, always watch, always observe. The two dogs will start playing, or they'll go and stand on a rock somewhere and look out, and I'm always looking. trying to be ready. I'm not always ready. I might have the wrong lens on for what the dog's actually doing. But I'm always trying to be ready. Yeah, and observe and wait. Because you might find that you get some really nice pictures when you weren't actually trying to get your dog to do anything. And I think they're even more satisfying to get, aren't they? Because you didn't ask them to do anything. There was no sort of making them. Not that we make dogs do anything anyway. Okay, so I'm going to go on to the questions. So Heather has said, what do you do for dogs who are motivated by sniffing/chasing and aren't really food or toy driven? Motivated by sniffing. Okay, so like beagles or sight hounds, dogs like that. Well, if you think about it, if a dog is sniffing, at some point, they'll look up, right? At some point. I mean, I've never known a dog that literally the entire walk, they've got their nose around, and that's it. So that just goes back to what I was saying about being ready. And I think probably location would really help with that as well. So, for example, if you're in a beach location, I think that dogs are less likely to be going around sniffing than in a woodland location or a park location. So I think with dogs like that, that would definitely help. But chasing, yeah, like I said, with dogs that like to chase, I'm presuming that you're talking about dogs that like to chase rabbit and deer and things like that, as opposed to other dogs. Well, that goes back to what I said about location being really important, and that's why I used the example of Ivory in my lesson, because the difference between going to the woods and going to the beach was literally a different dog. The first day we met, Ivy was just back and forth, completely wired, looking all the time. And because she was in the undergrowth, through the trees, most of the time I couldn't see her. I mean, I did manage to get a few things, but we couldn't engage her. She wasn't interested. So of course we went to the beach, and things were very different. I mean, there's no squirrels at the beach, no rabbits at the beach. So for a dog like that, that really helps. But yeah, I guess, like I said, these enclosed places where they physically can't get out, but they've still got a lot of space to run around, they're really helpful too. I mean, there's one near Brighton that I went to a few weeks ago, or well, a couple of months ago, and as I said, there was one of the dogs in the shoot that she was really interested in going around the perimeter, but sometimes she'd come across and go and sniff through the trees and run around. So it was in those moments that I got pictures of her. Although I did actually get some pictures of her looking out through the fence, because, well, that's her, and they wanted pictures of her sort of being her. Obviously, not killing anything, or at least not trying to. But you know, her looking through the fence kind of reflects her personality as well. So yeah, I did what I could, but it was definitely tricky. Heather also asked, how do you manage more than one dog? You only have one hand free to treat, particularly if their motivations are different. Well, I'm going to cover multiple dogs in a later lesson. We're going to go lots of different ways of doing this, but just to say that it is really, really hard to do that. Give you an example of a shoot I did a few weeks ago on Saunton Sands. The 3 dogs, all motivated by different things. One really motivated by a ball, one really motivated by going off to say hello to all the other dogs, one really motivated by not really a lot, apart from just wandering around and kind of la la la. So I don't really engage that dog in much at all. He was there, but he wasn't really doing anything. So in the end, right at the end, and this is me slithering down a sandy bank with my hand all covered in dog slop. I had the ball and the treat in my left hand, and the woman behind me, and the man, because if he went off, they were all looking over at him. So both of them behind me with this, quick. It was really hard. But we'll go into multiple dogs a little bit later on. Right, what's the next question? Sarah said, what to do when a dog has their nose to the floor? Okay, so this is a similar question. Well, they don't always have their nose to the floor, so you can wait, but you can always get lower than them. sometimes I do this. Now, this is great with the wide angle stuff that I'm going to teach you later on in the course. I actually just follow dogs around sometimes and just get lower than them. So they're sniffing down to the floor, but they're still kind of looking down at me. And yeah, sometimes that's all I can get, but they always look up sometimes. So it's definitely still a question of um, kind of waiting and observing. But I would suggest that problem is worse in certain locations than others. So see which locations are better and go there if you can. Obviously, maybe not at the moment. So Rose, right. I have a 16-month-old butterfly brain. She just gets bored so quickly, and being half a Saluki doesn't help as they're so stubborn. Can't get her to pose for more than a nanosecond, and my reflexes are slow. I've upped the shutter speed, but unless she's stationary, it's useless. Okay, then I asked for a bit more information. She says it's probably worse when she's out and about. As a sight hound, she's constantly scanning and looking around or sniffing. She likes treats, but if there's a distraction, food or toys just don't cut it. She also hates the car. She loves other dogs and she likes the ball. Well, I actually see a lot of things that she's motivated by here. So the first thing, obviously, is not to go too far because she hates the car. So obviously, if you were to go too far, she's not going to be feeling good, maybe a bit sick and anxious, and that's not a very good start. So obviously staying local is the first thing. Going somewhere where there are not a lot of other dogs, I think, would be the other thing. Not always easy, depending on where you live. But yeah, going when it's a bit quieter. But there's a couple of things that I thought in what you said, Rose. First of all, she's constantly scanning and looking around. So when you're scanning and looking around, your head's up and you're looking, right? Could you not get some portraits of her when she's doing that? Can't even get her into the car. Okay, right. Okay, well, that's different then. So, Rose, do you not have any locations nearby that are fairly quiet that you can go to, that you can walk her to? Because obviously, somewhere where it's quiet is obviously going to be a thing for you. But also, you said can't get her to pose for more than a nanosecond. Well, you're going to have to be quick then, aren't you? You're going to have to up your reflexes. You're going to have to be quicker. But I think also for you, it's about timing. So definitely don't try and do it in the beginning. Let her run, let her sniff, let her scan, let her look. Try and do it more when she's tired. But you are also going to have to be in that observational mode and be waiting. Because I know for a fact that when dogs are scanning and looking, they're not always running and scanning and looking. They're kind of stood still and listening and waiting. Yes, she's just so fast. I need to be quicker. Well, is she ever standing still looking? The thing is, if she's standing still looking, you bet your bottom dollar she's probably stood in where there's dappled light, or she stood behind you and the light's in the wrong place. Happens all the time. How about, let's see, hang on a minute. So she loves a ball. How about something like you could, if she loves a ball, there's nobody around, she's done loads of running, perhaps you could hide the ball in things so she could be looking and digging and sort of exploring. How about something like that? Right, better move on. So Angela says, what do you do with a complete foodie that constantly mugs you for treats that it's difficult to get any other picture than looking down while they're obsessed with the treat hovering above the lens? Well, actually, a dog that is obsessed with food is incredibly useful because they are highly motivated and they want to be with you. The problem is sometimes is that they're, like you say, they're constantly mugging you. So have you tried sprinkling a few treats where you want them to be, and then you can stand back? And if that's too easy and it's too quick, you could break the treats up very, very small so they have to spend more time there so that you've got more time to get back. Because what I've noticed when you do something like that, more often than not, once they finish, they'll kind of look up and be like, oh, what's going on? And then they'll come towards you. Sometimes they'll finish the food and then their nose are to the ground all the way towards you. And that's like, oh no, that doesn't work at all. Doesn't work at all. But you can just try again. But you could try and like hide treats in things. So like in a crack on a kind of a log or something. So they're kind of pouring to kind of get it out, and that gives you time to get back. Later on, we're going to be doing wide angle stuff. And you need dogs to be close to you when you're doing that. So actually having a dog that's constantly mugging you is actually quite handy for that kind of photography. So whilst you might think that it's a problem now, later on you might think that it's an advantage as well. And Angela also says, got a work dog collie that loves to run and play, but if I lie on the floor, he will leap all over me and start nipping, playful nipping, overexcited, ball obsessed. Okay, so ball obsessed thing that I think is really going to help you. So, for example, like I said with your other dog, what about you get the ball and you somehow attach it to the floor, like you kind of with a peg, with a rope or something like that. You could kind of attach it to the floor. So if the dog's obsessed with it, it's trying to pull it out the floor, and then you can get further back and get a picture that way. Or you could, I don't know if you're anywhere near sand, you could, or even some soft mud. You could show your collie that you're burying the ball, and then you go, right, go and get it, and then they're digging it out, and that gives you a chance to get back. Obviously, it depends on how far you want to get back. Or you could kind of wedge the ball in a kind of a crack of a kind of fallen down log or something like that. It's all about trying to give you time to kind of get back. Now, I don't know what your dog will do once they get the ball. Chances are they'll get it and come running straight for you. But if it's quite hard to get the ball out, they might try and get it, and then kind of look at you and go, can't get it, and then try again. So in those moments, you could maybe try and get some portraits. So it's just sort of trying to be using what they're motivated by, put it where you want them in that nice light. And then it's about sort of trying to get them to be there to give you time to come back. You can also do the pretend throw. I'm going to go on about the pretend throw quite a lot in action shots, but just to say quickly, pretend throw is brilliant. Collies are so intelligent. They're times and they're like, no, you're not throwing it. But have you ever done like go pretend throw and the dog runs and then they're looking, and then that's when they're still, right? And then they come back, no, you haven't thrown it, might give me the ball. And then you try again. I do pretend throws all the time for portraits, all the time. Quite difficult if you're on your own, and also after a couple of times and they realise you're not going to throw it, they don't go far enough away. But give that a go as well. But I'll go on about pretend throws more for action shots. So I hope that helps you, Angela. Now, somebody else said, but I didn't quite remember where this was put, so I haven't got their name. Getting a dog to look happy or to look at all. Calling their name makes them come. Yeah, I've had this all the time. Okay, calling them name. Yeah, so I've had quite a lot. So the dog's in the position for a portrait, and then the person, let's say their name Barney, and then Barney comes. I'm like, no, don't call their name. Because more often than not, if you call a dog's name, they've learned you want them to come towards you, which is not necessarily in that moment what I want. So I prefer noises. Actually, yeah. I used to have sort of squeakers, a bit like, but actually I find my own voice quite handy enough. Or I go, and most of the time, if you do that, you got a dog that goes, most of the time, not all. But as I say, building up to that is speed. It's 100% speed. It's quite funny. I do make people laugh at I just don't care about making myself look stupid with the noises that come out of my mouth. Someone once said to me once on a shoot, she had another shoot with somebody else, and she didn't like this photographer at all because he just kept shaking keys at the dog, which I just thought, I don't like that sound at all. I don't like that sound, and also it's kind of too much effort. I do take, what am I trying to say? Like, if a dog's very nervous, I'm not going to be there sort of making loads of big loud noises at them. I have to, again, take it as it comes. But most dogs, if you do a little bit of Betsy, okay, not if you're Betsy, not today. But yeah, I just make noises, and that tends to work. But again, it's always with be quick. because I actually found, again, going back to people taking too long, a lot of times when people are doing this, their dog is kind of used to it and thinks, oh, okay, I've been bored in the past. This is just too long. I'm not going to look. La, la, la. Speed. Get them to realise actually what you're asking them to do is fun. It's not going to take very long. They get the reward very quickly. And also all the other distractions around, not as many. It all plays a really important part. Oh, yeah, another thing. I've had to ask people quite a lot not to hold their hand in the air because the dog always looks up. So I'm there taking a portrait of the dog, and the dog's like this, and I'm like, "Are you holding your hand up behind me?" And they're like, "Yeah." I'm like, why are you doing that? why are you doing that? Don't do that, because the dog is just looking up, right? So more often than not, I get the dog to look where I want them to look by holding something. But we're going to do that in the next lesson probably. But yeah, actually, I find that dealing with the people on the shoot is just as important as dealing with the dogs, because often they are they feel like they're helping, but sometimes they're kind of hindering by trying too much to get the attention of the dog. This is especially true where you've got multiple people on the shoot. I actually had a shoot with 3 dogs and 7 people once, and you had 7 people trying to give the dogs instructions, and it was complete and total chaos. And actually, I had to say, listen, I'm not being funny, but I'm going to nominate one person to speak, apart from me, one person that the dogs listen to, because it was just complete and total chaos. And actually, in the end, they wanted a group shot of all the people and the dogs, and we did that. But then what we did was split up. So most of the people kind of went off, and the kind of the core people that the dogs were belonged to stayed, because it's just 7 people. No, too much. Too much going on for the dogs to concentrate on. You have to kind of narrow down what they have to be distracted by. Rose. Hang on, we've already had Rose. Oh, here we go. I made another note for you, Rose. Sorry. Inquisitive, nosy nature of her dog. So yeah, so I was just going to say to you, Rose, how about hiding treats around the garden, getting her to look for them? You know, you could hide a few treats around. She's got obviously a sight hand, got a very good sense of smell, I should imagine. How about you do that, but hide them where it's the nice light, where you want her to go. You never know. Give it a go. Lisa says, having someone on hand to help helps. Yes, it really helps. Yeah, yes, it definitely does help. But what I found actually is sometimes people get bored and wander off. This is especially true. Rose says, we'll try. Very good. This is especially true actually when people bring children along. Now, if the kids, people don't tend to bring really, really young children along, but more kind of kids who are kind of that age where they're kind of allowed to kind of go out and wander around the neighbourhood. So they're kind of wandering off, kind of exploring and climbing up trees, or if it's on a beach, they're kind of wandering off looking at shells. Whatever it is they're doing, they're not doing it with us. And that really distracts dogs, because dogs do not like their group going apart from each other. I might have told you the story once, I think I did in an early one, about a lady's husband, that I had to say, you have to rein your husband in because he's distracting the dog by going off exploring. But actually, most of the time, it's the younger people, it's the children. Because not only are they going off, they're playing, they're making noise, the dog's thinking, what are you doing? I'm going to go off with you. So I do have to say to people, listen, I don't want to ruin their fun or anything, but to get better pictures of your dog, they kind of need to be with us, but not making a load of noise and not being really distracting. I mean, it's quite hard to actually sort of tell someone just what you need to do with your child, but at the same time, you kind of do need to manage the situation, because at the end of the day, they're there to get pictures of their dog, and I kind of have to tell them diplomatically, this is how it would be better. But then later on, if they want pictures of their dogs with their kids, then I get them involved, and they more often than not really enjoy that, because it's all about playing. So yeah, I try and get them involved. But yeah, like I said, with Boo and Betsy, having somebody to help get them do anything, or rather Boo, getting her to do anything, then either staring at me or being behind my feet would be really, really helpful. But a lot of times you don't have somebody there, do you? So there's only so much that you can do on your own as opposed to having help, and having help definitely helps. And I found the optimum number of people on a photo shoot is 2, because you can get them to call the dogs between them, things like that. And also, if you've got multiple dogs, you can have like a dog handler, somebody who can help kind of hold a couple for a bit, and that kind of thing. Definitely helps having somebody there. Wendy says, one of my dogs is so expressionless and tilts her head to one side. That's lovely and stands strong with great eyes. But as soon as you move the camera up, she looks disinterested, shoulders slump, eyes narrow, and she turns away and looks quite snooty, as if to say, oh God, not again. How would you overcome this? Well, I did ask Wendy to give me some more details, but I didn't hear back in time. So if you're watching this, Wendy, I would just ask you, how long are you taking to take a picture of your dog? Because I think that that's probably the problem. She's learned in the past that she's not getting what she wants. You're taking probably far too long to do this. So what I would recommend is you start from scratch. You start from absolute scratch. You get the camera out, you have the camera there, but you don't really try and take pictures. You just have the camera there and give her the reward very, very quickly. Very, very quickly. You're talking speed it up, speed it up. If you've been taking 20, 30 pictures, don't. Take 2. Take 1. Don't take any. Just get the camera out, boom, give the treat. Whatever it is that she wants, ball, treat, or even just to be let go and to go off and sniff. Say, go on then. Good. Well done. Off you get. Well done. And sort of build it up from there. So I think the more she associates with what you're doing, with what she wants, the more that you're going to get out of it. I mean, I've had this loads of times on photo shoots. Absolutely. Bye, Betsy. Loads of times on shoots, they'll say, oh no, they won't pose, they won't do this, they won't do that. And because I'm so fast and I give them what they want so quickly, dogs are very intelligent. They'll learn, oh, this woman gives me something I like. She's not asking much of me. I don't have to stay very long. And I get stuff I want. So many times it's happened. And the person will say, oh, they're not normally like that. They don't normally stay for me. They don't normally do this. And I'm like, that's because I'm quick. And they're learning very, very fast. Sometimes I actually will start by not taking a picture at all. I'll just get the dog to be with me. And then give them what they want and then kind of build it up from there. So that's what I would suggest. Here, this is a really good question. This is the last question. Unless anybody's got any more, if you have, put it in the live chat and I shall get to it in a minute. She says, Wendy says, if you have someone who wants a portrait of their dog looking regal and tongue in, how would you manage this? As after a lot of exercise, as I normally find they are panting so much more and you can't get them to keep their tongues in. Wow, okay. So as I said, most of the time, unless the dog's sort of elderly or lazy or doesn't really want to move, most of the time on the shoots, we do action shots first. For obviously multiple reasons. But of course, yeah, a lot of dogs do start panting. So if you were to do portraits after that, then yeah, probably you get the tongue out. Okay, so there's 2 things that I would recommend. If the dog's panting, it's because they're hot. So if you're doing this at a hot part of the day, then they're going to be hot. So you want to do that. You want to do it in the cooler part of the day so they can cool down more quickly. I mean, obviously, you wouldn't be going out. I wouldn't suggest going out when it's really hot anyway. But yeah, cooler part of the day. And once they've had a really good run around, maybe you could just sit around and chat. Sit around and chat and wait. And just wait for them to kind of stop panting and stop being so hot. And also, wait. Observe and wait. So I've had this loads of times. So we've had a good run around, and actually we're having a sit down and a chat, and the dogs sort of sit there and be kind of la 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 looking around, and I'm always watching and I'm always observing and I'm waiting, and a lot of times I've got the portrait and wouldn't ask them to do anything. So it'd be those 2 things that I would suggest. Obviously, some dogs are quite happy, aren't they, to be still and stay straight away. it's again, it really just depends on the dog. I mean, I don't personally think it's fair. Like if you meet and they're so excited, they really want to go, want to go, want to go, to be sort of making them stand and wait for portraits. Um, whilst they, whilst their motivation is really somewhere elsewhere. But if you're really quick and you take maybe one or two, it's no big deal, is it? It's no big deal at all. So, um, yeah, I think that that's what I would suggest. So if that helps you, Wendy, I hope it does. Now, I think that that's all I have to say, unless anybody's got any more questions. I've been going on for 55 minutes. I'm sure there's a million and one more things to say about motivation, but really hope that you found that helpful. Yeah, so if anybody's got any more questions, speak now or forever hold your peace. Yes, that helps. I'll try that next time. No worries. Great. So, your next lesson, lesson number 4, is coming tomorrow. Now, I know for some of you, some of this is going to be stuff that you already know. Obviously, I've got some beginners here too. So, I wanted to start right at the beginning explaining aperture, shutter, speed, and ISO for people. Because obviously that's those fundamental things that you need to have some sort of understanding about to improve your photography. Then I talk about my different lenses. And first of all, before my lenses, we talk about how you can see what your lens and or lenses can do. Then I'll tell you about my lenses, why I've got them. And then after that, it's just quite a long lesson, it's quite a lot, but I hope it's not too much. We're going to be trying to get really beautiful portraits with a nice blurred out background. As I noticed, a lot of you haven't done that so far. I mean, you might have, I don't know, but the pictures that I've seen, not so much. I love blurred out backgrounds. I think they can look really, really beautiful. And I think that that's a really good test for you to understand about aperture and lenses and how it all works together. So that's coming tomorrow. I think that that will be a nice challenge for you all, and I'm excited to see your pictures. So I think that will do for now. I've nearly been speaking for now. There's 13 of you still here, so thanks, guys. Yeah, I hope that you're all enjoying the course. If you know anyone else that wants to do it, please let them know. There's no sort of time limit on anyone joining, so you can join any time. They just have to catch up with the other lessons in their own time. Yeah, as I say, if you've got any more questions as we go on. Now, we'll be talking more about settings as we go on. I know a lot of you have been desperately wanting to talk about settings, but I've really tried to avoid that because I wanted more for you to think about the dogs first and the lighting first. But now I'll be more open to sort of talking about settings. But it's going to be settings for portraits first. We're going to be doing action shots later, portraits first. Got to do one thing at a time. So, yeah, hope that's all been good. And yeah, I'll be online today. I'm going to be finishing off this lesson for you. So if you've got any other questions, Faye says, can you post something which we can easily share to get you some more students? Yeah, okay, great. Well, what I'll do then is I'll post the link to the my landing page on my website where there's a nice video of me and Betsy to lure people in. And yeah, I'll post that. And yeah, if you get anyone else to join me, I mean, I've raised nearly £1,000 for charity, as well as got some income for myself, which is great whilst I can't work. But it'd be really great to really ramp that up, wouldn't it? And get loads more, because it's quite a worry, all these dogs and animals and people struggling. So yeah, it'd be really cool if I could kind of go to bed at night feeling like they've actually achieved something good in that respect. So yeah, I'll post that in the group shortly, and yeah, you could share it. That would be amazing. Again, hope you're all good and well and happy, and your dog's all happy as well. And yeah, and go now. I'll speak to you again later. All right.